Does that work? Hello, hello, hello. Are we live? Hey, okay. Looks like it's live. Cool. All right. Thanks everybody for joining in. Super excited to be reviewing some amazing portfolios. We got a lot of submissions. We couldn't pick all of them. We picked 6 of them that we're going to review this time. If you didn't get picked this time, there'll definitely be more reviews. We try to get a mix of skill levels to try and cover a larger spectrum of things. But let's start with some introductions. Anyone from our side who wants to dive into it first, give a little background about yourself before we go into it?
I can start if you guys want. So I'm Pedro Krieger. I'm from Brazil. I'm an artist here at Envar. I do both illustrations and concept art, and I've been working with Envar since the beginning, pretty much. I think beginning of 2021, right?
Yep.
And yeah, I'm from Brazil. I think I said that already. But yeah, I'm very passionate about art for video games, and I'm glad that we are here live helping you guys and chatting.
Yeah, and I'm Yan. I'm also from Brazil. I've been working with Envar since the beginning of the year, and I did all kinds of stuff there. I did some military cards, some character design. I did some illustrations for the Star Guardian event as well, and it's been super cool. And thank you guys for joining in.
Nice.
Cool. Abby, you wanna go?
Sure. I'm Abby. You guys might know me as Nico on Discord. I am the community manager for Envar, so I'm in charge of socials and planning events for you guys. And it's been really great getting to know the community. So yeah, just it's been amazing seeing everyone's work. We're gonna feature some of the submissions from the most recent art challenge that we had at the end of the stream, so stay tuned for that. And also, if you guys have any questions, we'll be doing a Q&A at the end, so just coming and chat.
Cool. And I'm Atey, creative director and founder here. Been working with Yan, Pedro, and Abby. Super excited to host this thing. There was so many cool portfolios, but we only have a limited time today, but we will do it again. And the first one out is Uller Silva. I hope I said it correctly. And we think we're diving into this one, and we're gonna try and think of like 2 ways when we give the feedback. Part of it is like what part of the craft can be improved, but also how would you make the transition to working commercially? For some people that we picked, it might be closer. For others, it might be a bit distance to go. But let's just go into it. So we'll just have a brief look through the work for all of you to check out the beautiful images that they've been making. It's a lot of female characters. They're very beautifully painted. And then we can go into the review itself about the work.
Yeah, very aesthetic. I like it.
Yeah, definitely very very aesthetically pleasing. There's a style that is defined already.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the first feedback you guys would give? Do you want to look at a specific piece? Maybe we can look at this.
Yeah, this.
Atey, real quick.
Yeah.
On your screen, click on ignore for your screen share, because it's kind of graying out the screen share that you're doing. Go back to your meeting tab. Let's say.
Oh, this?
Uh-huh.
Is that okay?
I'll know in a few moments on stream.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Oh, wait. It changed? Can you click? Is there like a ignore at the bottom of the screen?
Oh, that thing.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. Is it good?
I think now it's good since you pressed ignore.
Okay.
Probably.
Yeah.
I am
Be
the
okay.
boomer in this call. Get ready for technical difficulties. Okay. Let's.
Wait, it's still dark. Sorry.
Still dark?
Oh yes, now it's good. Now it's good. Okay, good.
It's
Okay.
good.
Sorry,
it's
there's a
good.
bit of delay on the screen. Okay, yeah,
Okay.
it looks great now. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Uh,
Yeah. Jan Pedro, go ahead.
Yeah,
What do you
for
think?
for this one, I would say I like how like there's no colors on it, right? So it makes a little bit easier to paint. So the values are very good to read. But there are some things that I would make more clear, like her hand has like these black fingers, and it's kind of reading weird because looks like they cut her fingers, you know.
Yeah, they blend too much with the background.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the skirt or this cloth thing that's on her side, like it's beautiful, but it should have more geometry to it. Like should flow to the foreground and little bit to the background. It's good to think about separating the character into planes, as we do with backgrounds. We usually try to also illuminate in different ways stuff that are coming to us, having a different light from the stuff that are going away, right? Yeah, since it doesn't have this interaction with the light, I feel like it's kind of flat. Yeah, what would you say, Pedro?
For this piece specifically, I think, actually for all of them, looking now, I think there's definitely a good craftsmanship on characters, but I feel like other elements of the scene, of the illustration, needs to have the same amount of care you give to the characters, right? So, like the sword on the last image, it could have a more interesting design, you know, since the character is interesting, right? You gave the character the necessary amount of thought, you know. So if you could translate that to other things on the scene, I think it would be ideal.
Yeah. Also speaking about all the artworks, like in a holistic level, I think it should be good to vary a bit the subject of the images. Like propose yourself to draw different archetypes of characters as well, because it will make you like strengthen your library, your visual library, so you can draw more kinds of bodies and proportions and really input emotions into the characters. Yeah, because I mean, when you draw girls, it's very easy to make them aesthetic pleasing. You know, it's not easy technically. I mean, it's like
it becomes a comfort zone really quickly, I guess.
yeah, that's what I mean.
And I think, like, you know, if we go back to the first piece, like, I really like the thematic of it. Like, it's like a summoner, she's like a dark wizard of some sort, and it's like a very cool thematic, considering we just had a dark magic theme on Discord. But I think the story isn't quite being told, because, like, you know, the summoning is an aspect I read secondary, but it feels a little bit too much, especially like when we illustrate things. It's like, you don't want to overact. It has to be natural. It's like, imagine we're catching her in the moment of the summoning, not that she's posing for us in the camera, which is a tricky balance. Like, I think looking at movie screenshots are a great way of seeing how to act, how to make things natural, because if you make it feel natural, you're much more likely to believe it, you know? And I think that's something that would be super. And there's some interesting things with the hand. I think it's like an eye, and also here. But I feel like, you know, it's more about just having her expression being the focus, and I think we could find a way to, not changing this one, but for future pieces to tying in a bit the narrative a little bit more, and having her posture represent that a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Just a conclusion that I think the takeaway is try to make all the things that compose our image respect the first, most important message. Like the storytelling aspect should be on the top, and then the other beautiful aspects of the image should follow it. It should be secondary in a hierarchy standpoint.
Yep.
I think it's it.
Cool.
I think also as just a final thought, like Jan said before, I think the next step right now is just to try and do more daring pieces, because right now you have very similar pieces on your portfolio. Like they're all women, they're all aesthetically pleasing, So I think in order for you to improve, you gotta throw yourself out of the comfort zone and try stuff that you've never done before, and that's definitely gonna test your skills, and you're gonna learn a lot, and yeah, you're gonna improve your portfolio.
Yeah, and I think when you make the transition to working commercially, you have no idea what you're gonna paint. Pedro and Jan can speak for this. Like, I keep throwing shit at them; they have no idea what it is. It's like, and you're just gonna be able to tackle it and think of it more about the trying to sell the narrative rather than the specific subject as a whole.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think that's actually something really important that you mentioned, Atey. Like the ability of the artist to just be versatile.
Yeah.
The ability to just problem solve everything, that gets thrown at us. I think that's like one of the key abilities that's gonna get you into the industry, right?
Yep. Cool. All right, I think we're good. Going to next one.
Good. Yeah, good work, Killer.
Yeah. You gotta
Yeah.
follow as well. Yeah, gotta keep watching the work. Cool.
I post next.
Yeah. Can you all see this?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So we'll do a brief look through, and this is something we talked a little bit ahead of time. I think in some of the pieces we can sort of identify a little bit more where the general struggle is, because it, or where it could be improvement, because it sort of applies to several of the pieces as a whole. We'll just take a look before we dive into it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was good.
Yeah. Such a good anime. Got berserk. And also something we're gonna look out for, there's no point feedbacking stuff that's like a year old, because as artists, things change so fast, and we're getting a little bit at some older stuff. These are okay. Let's go back. I think the first piece we can talk a lot about. If any of you guys want to start on this one.
Yeah, first of all, I think it's good that you like to do that tight line art, and I saw a lot of drawings in your portfolio. Somehow the rendering aspect is not following the quality, I think. Like it's a bit unbalanced.
Real quick, I think the music might be a little bit loud. If you want to turn that down a tiny bit.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, continue.
I think there's a lot of room to improve in the rendering aspect, and the first thing would be to respect local color, which is a rule of thumb that first you respect it, and then you begin to manipulate it as you get comfortable, because like it's super easy to mess up your rendering with like mismatching the values for light and local color and bouncing light and a lot of stuff happening. Effects, especially in this one, I think the effects are too complex and noisy. So there should be like a clear read, like first her skin, then her hair grouped with like her sleeve and torso, and then all the background show show a very simplified value structure, and then start to make it more complex as you go. I think you probably started with too much complexity already.
Yeah. I think also something nice to mention is that the oldest piece on your portfolio is like 6 months old, and you have a lot of pieces, so it's nice to see the amount of production you have. That's very positive. But I think what I can say, like, I'm always trying to think on this portfolio reviews, like what's the next step for the person, right? In a more general way. And for you, I would say it's like it's not necessarily something you need to do, it's something that would be good for you to learn and study, is to focus your portfolio on something more specific. Because right now we have a lot of variation of projects. We have prop design, we have character design, we have illustrations, we have environment design. So if you just choose one of those to focus for a relative long time, like a few months, half a year, and just grind that out and try to improve that subject alone, I think it would be best for you, to improve quickly, right? But with that said, I don't want to discourage you from trying everything you want. It's always good to try stuff and, just have fun and be happy. But sometimes if we want to learn a lot and quicker, it's good to just focus up on one thing.
Yeah. And it could be really overwhelming in the start to learn everything. Like I remember when I was starting out, I was like, oh shit, I gotta do character design, I gotta do environment, it's like, it's too much. So I agree with Pedro as well. It's like, pick the thing you're most excited about. There's different areas that are definitely more competitive than others, like character design. It is super, super competitive. Doesn't mean you can't make it, it's just gonna require extra grind than, for instance, environment work, where maybe it's not as many people doing it as there's like the need. So something to also think about. I think one thing as well to add is that I would say think about how you use values in general. Like, and think of, when you really push the highlights and the contrast, they're like the cherry on top of your art dessert, It's like, you can't put cherries everywhere. It's not going to be as good, right? It's going to be overwhelming, even though it might be tasty, right? You got to pick where you place it, right? And in this one, there's a little bit too much where you have contrast in so many hotspots. You got to pick where do you want to put it and think about that. And it's as a general focal point for your images.
Yeah. Just another thing that could be solved right away, I think. Can you scroll to the... there's a character design. Yes, this one. I think you've been using a lot of very dark values, and like there are few colors that have saturation in this value. So I think you could limit a bit and try to work more on the... like instead of 5 of a value, very close to black, try to work on 20 or 30, because if not, you can't properly illuminate the dark material thing you're trying to do, and it becomes this seems muddy, So yeah. I saw a lot of very, very dark values on your stuff, so maybe that's something to keep in mind.
When you say 20, Jan, you mean like on the scale range from black to white? Yeah. So just to clarify, like imagine 10 is black and 20 is like a much brighter gray. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I think just a good way to exemplify this is like the shadow parts of the hat, the little red cape, and his shirt is all pretty much the same value. You know, it reads as the same thing. Ideally, you would have like a range of value for the hat, a different range of value for the red cloth, and a different range of values for the shirt, so they all read as different materials, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think the setup is there because you can tell it's the flat with flat colors, but I think just gotta be a little bit careful when you start painting into it.
Yeah.
Cool. You guys good going to next?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
Sorry, 1 moment.
I just want to add one more thing on this one. Like, I think this is awesome that you think about the gameplay aspect in your image. Like, whenever you work for games, you sort of have to keep that in mind. How, especially environment, like how is the player going to go from location X to location B? But I think when you paint it up, think about the light as well. How can you emphasize this aspect? Is there maybe a lantern glowing here that would encourage the player to go to the area where it's a little bit darker? Just to emphasize the cool idea you have down here.
Yeah, also I think that aspect of thinking of game design is something really valuable for your portfolio, There's a lot of people, like Atey said, there's a lot of competition for character design. But I think, like, my perspective of the situation is that just a small percentage of those character designers think about the gameplay aspect,
Yep.
So that's something really valuable to keep on your portfolio and on your mindset. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Going to next to Nadine. So we'll take a quick look through the portfolio. Her original character, some studies from other artists, expressing some internal feelings.
Mhm. Cool. I think there's a similar problem with the darker tones.
Yeah,
and
you want to
darker
dive into
values.
it? Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, like, even if you search for a speed paint video from Atey, you're gonna see that he's gonna use a lot of values that circle around the mid tones, and then as it goes, he will start adding like the darker tones and the brighter tones just as accents. It should never be like too much on the beginning, I think, if you're learning, because then you're gonna have much trouble trying to figure out how to group values. Yeah, in this one, for instance, I think I don't really see the relation between the things happening in the image, and I think it has to do with the value structure and a bit with the choices you made. Like, there's much more rendering on the sides, on the background elements, than the central thing. So I don't know. I can't see exactly why it's in the middle and calling for much attention like that.
Maybe that's something that could help us try to limit yourself to the values you use. Try to figure out what is the local value of the rocks, the local value of the cloud, and then you can do a light and shadow pass on top of it, like Jan said.
Mm-hmm. I think something about that piece.
The previous one?
Yeah, I saw that it had the color, the one with color and the one with just gray tones. And one thing I like to keep in mind when coloring is that it's always like a process that we need to go back to previous steps to check if everything's right. Because when we start painting with gray tones. I'm gonna assume you painted first with the gray tones alone, right? If that's the case, it's sometimes kind of difficult to get the colors right afterwards, because we keep so much time working on values alone that we don't calculate how the colors are gonna work. So when we paint colors on top of gray tones, it's always good to see if they work, and if not, you go back to the gray tones and change them and see if the colors work. Because I feel like on this piece you painted it on top of the gray tones and didn't change the values, right? And that's why the colors are not working as well as they could, right? So think of pieces in general, art in general, as like something very organic. You can always go back and change stuff, you know. It's not a linear process.
Also, like in this piece, for instance, you don't need much value sometimes to make something appear three-dimensional. You just need to put a brush stroke like with the right value. It doesn't need to be too much, and it needs to wrap the form. Like obviously, if the drawing is right, if the ellipses are reading correctly, so just on her dress, like the blue parts is something that could be much more neutral. The values could be like, there's too much dark, too much black, and too much white in some parts. Like the white parts could be like just a very very soft brushstroke with blue, lighter blue, and it would like appear volumetric, much more faster and easily. But yeah, I get it. Sometimes we we tend to use too much value because like as we don't see the two-dimensionality, we think, no, if I put more color dodge or if I brighten it up, it will appear more two-dimensional. But it's not like that, because your image is gonna have a lot of two-dimensional stuff. So you need to illuminate every single thing in a subtle way, so you can use the resources, like the most bright and contrastant resources on the focal area, like her face. Do you think this makes sense? Because I don't know if you're explaining.
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah.
Cool.
You just want to share anything on this one? I think here I think the structural issues become a little bit more apparent, where whenever the anatomy or the underlying form is wonky, it sort of doesn't matter what you what type of paint you put on top of it, the end result will feel wonky, you know. And it can be sometimes frustrating to try and really hone that down and iron out that skill set. But if you get that foundation down, it's going to be so much easier painting anything you want to paint, you know. And I would say it is worth grinding out the time to really understand the form, the figure, you know. Even though maybe you feel like it's not as productive as painting something up, I think it would be a pretty good use of the time.
Yeah. Like I think there's a lot of subtle aspects of anatomy that we should learn and pay attention to, because it brings that humanity to the characters. Like her arms are too simple and cylindrical, but we know that like our wrists are like there's an axis to it. There's like it's all asymmetrical, right? There's like the muscles on the arm. It's never like mirrored to the other side. Yeah, it really is asymmetrical. So it should generate a different silhouette than a cylinder, and we expect that when we look at the body.
Yeah, anatomy is complicated, but we gotta learn it.
Yeah. Cool. Want to do next one?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
Cool. There's a lot of questions.
All right. So, Yagis, I think that's how you say it, Kani. So he's working professionally. So how can we give him notes to expand upon the craft, since he's already working in the field? let's just take a quick stroll through some of the work before we do a little bit of a deeper dive into it. Some League fan art, some World of Warcraft fan art, and a mix of things.
Cool.
Yeah, very nice work.
Yeah. So this is 2 years ago. Probably should go back to... If we hone in on the more recent stuff, let me see. This was also 2 years ago. Sometimes it's weird on ArtStation, like the latest stuff. What about the illustration? Yeah, so this is last month. So maybe if we start here. What do you guys think?
I feel like there's obviously the drawing is looking good, like a good sense of design as well, but the values are feeling kind of bright for some reason. I miss some darker accents and like something grouped, like some piece of clothing that is grouped in a very dark value to contrast with his skin parts. Like it generates a good graphical readability, you know. But I think it's missing here.
Yeah. Also, the leg is pretty much invisible. It doesn't read well.
This one?
The planes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Jan.
Yeah, I think the thing about separating the characters into planes, like the leg would be in one plane and the rest of the body would be another plane. It would be good to like illuminate in a different way the leg, and we could see the overlap more clearly, because right now it's blending in and it's reading very weird.
Yeah.
And I think as well, like the VFX feels a little bit like an afterthought. The way it's appearing, and you know, especially as artists, like VFX is actually a big part of illustration. You know, it can completely change the impression of the image or how it works, and even how you compose the shot. You know, so I would really encourage anyone who is illustrating anything that has VFX in, give it just as much love as the rest of the image, because it usually is a pretty high point of contrast and attention in the images and can really help enhance the image as a whole.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have some very specific thoughts, but
Okay.
I think it's going to be interesting. I was looking at this portfolio before we started the stream, and something that I feel it's missing, something that I think it's going to be like your next step to improve, is basically try to make stuff more believable. Like you have a very stylized style, right? Cartoony, and that's fine. It's awesome. But when something is stylized or cartoony, it doesn't mean it needs to be. It can be realistic. It can be believable. Yeah, I think believable is the best word. You know, and it's hard to explain, but like I feel like your designs they lack the believability. Like the decisions you make on your characters. If you go to the concept art part of his portfolio, the second piece.
This?
Yeah, like the leather strap on the character. Like it's not as believable as it could be. It's just a very stylized piece of the character, but it could be it could have more function, right? Everything could have more function. When you add function to a design, it makes it more believable. It makes it more interesting, and you can keep it stylized. You know, that's not the issue. The issue is that we see this and we see something it doesn't take itself too seriously, right? So if you add like more realistic function to the leather strap, like a buckle that works, and that's just one example that you can apply this to everything. Like, okay, how is he? Where does he keep his weapon? Does he have a holster for his weapon? Where does he get his shoes? Does he craft his shoes? This type of mindset where you think logically about how the character works visually. You are always gonna need to add more function to it, and I think for you it's the one thing that's missing right now, to add that extra step of thought into the character. And I was looking around on your portfolio, and it reminded me of one artist that I think it achieves that very well, and has a similar style to what you work. And his name is Rafael Zanquetin. I'm gonna send the link on the chat for you guys. And his work is very stylized. It's super good, but it's also believable. It has that extra thought and care into the designs. It doesn't look too playful. It looks serious, but it's still stylized.
Did you put it in the Hangout chat? Because I can't check Slack.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to put here, but I dropped in the stream chat.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if it made much sense. I think I rambled a bit too much. If you guys want to add something.
I'll see what I think about what you said, because I think in a similar way. It's very interesting to hear it. It's what I think is when we see an illustration, could be like a storytelling based one, or really a character design. We tend to look at the details a lot. Like, first we read the overall values, and then we begin to see the details. And it's much more rewarding when you see details that represent some functionality to it.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Yeah, and there's two ways to think about it. Like, you could do a lot of brush strokes and generate a lot of sharp edges, and like, it's always good to see sharp edges, but it isn't as rewarding to see like a very good drawing with like complexity being formed by function that then the light catches up and then project shadows, and then you see sharp edges. It's much more it looks like the artist thought a lot when doing it. And this is something I learned from Victor Quaresma. She's some of you guys already know him.
Yeah, he's the master of functional design, I think.
Yeah, blessed.
Cool. Okay. You guys feel good moving to next?
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Alright. Then we have Emma Brico. So we'll just take a look. Some League of Legends fan art. This is Gwen. We have Star Guardian Zaya. We have a Crimson Rider. We have,
I like this one.
yeah, gender bent Aatrox.
Yeah, really nice.
Cool topic. Final Charge. Bathing Beauties. Oh, it's also a gender bent Volibear. That's cool. Curious from life. Nico and Soraka. Okay, so this is entering the year territory, so we'll go back to here. Is there any specific piece you guys want to start on?
What's the recent one? Most recent?
This one.
Yeah, the colors are great. I think there's a good sense of aesthetic on it, especially the scissor magic I think where it lacks is the planning of the image itself. Like, I, I, it's kind of weird to see like this background being kind of empty, and like if you were to pass a sense of I don't know, she's walking in the rain, I would try to make the umbrella a bit more closer to the camera, and then more splashes of water on the foreground to really bring that feeling, a first person feeling. And then I would try to, I don't know, put some puddles in the background and some dead trees maybe. I just think it's a little bit empty, and the character could be in any environment. This is something I try to keep in mind. Like, I always try to make the character interact in some way with the background. It could be in very unexpected ways sometimes, but that is why I tend to pass a lot of time in the drawing phase, like really testing out a lot of stuff, imagining myself as a director of a movie, trying to put stuff there and there, and yeah, I think it's the planning. It's the major issue.
Yeah, I think a good way to think of that is when you're doing a character illustration like this, where the focus is the character, think that everything else is going to be like a consequence of the character. So you're going to think of the background as something that is going to complement the character, right? So when you keep that in mind, when you have that mindset that everything is connected, everything is a consequence of the character being there, you start to think and solve these problems more easily, like Ian said.
Yeah, and I think also thinking about the character as a whole, now going a little bit deeper on Gwen, she's all about her weapon, you know, and here it feels much more secondary and a little bit more on the posing for the camera aspect. And this is thinking more as our studio and what we do, and it's like we really try to like capture the essence of the character and sort of stay away from moments that feels artificially posed, you know. Sometimes it might be specifically they're posing for a camera, right? But in this case it doesn't feel like that. And that's where like I think having a more convincing acting, and like Yan and Pedro said, like we're catching her in the moment. It's not like she's looking at us and showing us the weapon, you know. It's like maybe she's in the act of doing something and we just caught her for just a brief second in the shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one piece that was more successful at this is the Atrox piece.
Yeah.
That you do.
Yeah.
Like the character is walking towards the camera, holding the weapon, ready to attack in a battlefield that is all destroyed. You know, everything connects very well, and that's like what we are looking for. You know.
Yeah. The only issue with this one is, like, look at how beautiful is the ground planes being overlapped. But when we look at the clouds behind her head, it's really a drop of quality. It's good to like think through and try to draw more well thought overlaps, and really the design itself of the clouds could be more interesting, because it just looks like an airbrush with texture, you know.
And to add to a little bit of that, you know, like especially when doing illustrations or splash illustrations for League or any time-consuming images, like you cannot give up on any part of the image. Like you gotta put just as much love in the clouds as you do on the character, and it's very easy when you like been rendering all this time on the character, getting all the material right. You're like, fuck those clouds, you know. I don't want to paint them, you know. But you gotta.
I think we feel that almost every week.
Yeah, but you gotta paint them, you know. You gotta give them just as much love. So, yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I think maybe in this one we're getting a little bit of perspective issues that I think is something that's becoming really apparent. It's a bit in the previous ones as well, but whenever you want to capture something and sell it, it's like if there's ever perspective or anatomy issues, it's one of those things that even if you're not a painter, you're probably going to pick up on it. And it takes away from that fantasy that you're trying to sell to the viewer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's really common to see that leg mistake, like the leg is kind of going inwards
Yeah.
on the bear. It's a common mistake. We should think about the axis of the leg. The axis should be pointing at us a little bit,
Yeah.
so it go outwards. Yeah, it's something
Yeah.
to keep in mind.
Yeah, the leg should contour the shape of the bear, which is like something like this. Bears are usually like a bit fat and big. So yeah, always think of the 3D forms that are overlapping.
Mm-hmm.
I think also we're running into a little bit of scale issues and the way the clouds and the sky works. It almost feels like the background was painted regardless of the character, so they don't quite mesh together. It's important that, you know, like they're planned at the same time and painted at the same time. Even though if you use reference something, like you gotta place the character so everything matches perspectives wise and scale wise. Otherwise you'll feel a little bit strange.
Yeah. Also, it helps to put clues on the foreground or midground about the scale of things, like so we can compare and see where she is in a space. Because it's a big of jump when you see like these women and then the super small trees on the background. Seems almost like a painted wall, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. The scale is all about repetition and comparison of elements. So for instance, if you put a top hat on the bear and you repeat that top hat on the background with a different size, we're gonna have a more clear idea of the distance of the background, you know.
Yeah.
But obviously probably a tree would be ideal for this.
I like the top hat idea. I like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. Do you guys want to take next one?
Yeah. Let's
Yep.
do it.
Very, very good work.
Yep. And we have one more after this one, right?
Isn't this the last one?
I think this is the last one.
Oh, okay. Cool. So, Teodora Kamburova. Hopefully I didn't butcher that. Let's just take a look through the portfolio, some of the work.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, the edges. I like it.
Yeah.
The sharpness. Very nice.
So this is 2 years old. This is last year. Let's just go through, see, because sometimes last year. As a separate thing, you know, like this is regardless of the portfolio, but like try to keep your portfolio up to date. You know, whenever we look for people, it's like it's hard to make any judgment on something that's like 2 years old or even a year. Like especially like in the lifespan of an artist, like a year can be huge. You can jump like so much in knowledge and skill, you know. So trying to, even sketches are super cool to see. It doesn't have to be just finished paintings. So maybe we can focus on the Karma piece. This is the newest one.
Yeah.
Where do you guys want to start?
I think the rendering is pretty nice, you know. But the thing is, it's only on the characters that the render is like with extra care, you know. I think the background is lacking on that front. I think it needs the same care, like we said before. Everything needs the same care. Everything needs the same love. Everything deserves love on the piece.
I also think like sometimes the sharpness could trap us in a weird tunnel vision where it looks good, but it doesn't communicate necessarily what we're trying to achieve. Like the FX is very sharp. It looks like even plastic, like cut out plastic, and it's good to look at, but it doesn't pass the feeling of like sublime magic, and you know, it needs some soft edges and some smoky, some particles, some stuff to make it more believable.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I think definitely the pieces is super cool. I fully agree with the VFX. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do, and I think it's definitely in the right way, but it's like, there's ways softening it out. And with VFX, sometimes it's not about, it's knowing how much to render it and when to leave it alone, But I think it was Pedro said as well, like, and Jan, the energy was spent on the character, and then we sort of like, it drained on the background, and then we just blurred it, and I get that, but you cannot give up on the background,
Yeah.
So.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to backgrounds and even nature, especially nature, we see a lot of chaos, and you should do like a controlled chaos. And like when you see nature, you see a lot of overlapping things, a lot of organic stuff, one in front of another. So it's kind of weird to see only one root coming out of the ground. Like there should be more planes and more things that we could group in a big value chunk and render it and put some light on it. Because right now it looks kind of like a liminal space, this little area. Yeah,
Cool.
I think we can look at the thumbnails of this piece as well.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's good to show
Sure.
thumbnails.
Nice. Yeah, for sure.
I think the background was a second afterthought in all thumbnails. I think only the last one there's something more relevant happening.
Yeah, I think like we said before, when we are doing character illustration, we need to think of everything, not just the character, right? So when you pose the character on a certain pose, on a certain region of the composition, we need to make the background that complements that decision, right? So it's all about hierarchies and like learning to distribute the elements of the scene in a way that keeps the focus on the character, right? So that's a good way I usually think of background, like, okay, if I put a building here, is it gonna take the focus away from the character, or is it gonna be okay, So that's a good mindset to figure out backgrounds when you're a bit lost, Yeah. And that way the background always complements the character.
And to add to a little bit of that, I think like as an artist, you sort of can't ignore anything. Even if you prefer to do characters illustrations, you gotta do backgrounds. They're part of the illustrations. And it'll just make if you think in the long run as an artist, at least in my head, and Jan and Pedro, feel free to chime in, but you never want to be blocked by not knowing a subject matter because you didn't bother to, or didn't take the time to fully develop that side. You sort of want it's like exercising, right? You can't just work out your arms. You have to do legs, you have to do back, you have to do all of it. Otherwise, it'd be a bit of weird distribution in the skills, in the strength as a whole.
Yeah.
Your camera is looking very cool, Atey. It's like a Michael Bay shot.
Yeah.
Let's play. Oh, cool. It's
Literally
I gotta have the post effects going, with streaming.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely agree.
I remember this. Oh, go ahead.
No, just a last thought on the thumbnails. I think a more direct feedback would be just to be careful with the values of each element. The goal of the thumbnail is to have a nice readability and to have the foundations of the entire piece, right? So, for instance, some of these thumbnails, the values of the character resemble too much the values of the ground and the background, and it's good to have that distinction and that readability from the start. So we have that nice foundation to eventually start painting.
Just to echo that a little bit, but I think it's like we talked a lot about this, but when we do our thumbnails, it's like when we move forward, we don't want to do any guesswork. We want to have the whole shot laid out, and then it's like, all right, now we're executing upon this. Of course, it happens where we end up in a journey trying to make it work in the end. But ideally, you want to make that as soft of a journey as possible, rather than like where you go in a roller coaster.
Yeah, I think the ideal scenario is that you first make the big decisions, and as the process goes forward, you make smaller and smaller decisions, right? You never change the big ones. That's the dream goal, which sometimes doesn't happen, sometimes happen, but that's the goal.
If I can show something that I think is a good example on that, is like the one that Felipe did for Rift Quest as well, where it's a very complicated shot, but he basically tried to answer all the questions. So when the team painted it up, it was like there was no guesswork, right? We knew all the elements, all the information we needed to execute upon it, and the final image is really close to what we established early. I think the Nami piece that you did, Pedro, as well was the same thing, where the thumbnail as well, even though we zoomed out a little bit, it's the exact same shot. The lighting and everything are really close to what was initially established, which is super important.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, composition is such a hard topic to learn, because like there isn't an order of things you need to do. Like first you need to do the line art, and then you need to I don't know, if you follow something, you always enter an automatic mode where you start doing mountains in the background and like a grass ground, and that's it.
Yep.
But it's always one thing complementing another in the composition. So you should, I really want to stress that out, which is try to imagine yourself as someone directing a movie that has infinite amount of money to do anything. So you can say, put that building there, and look how, like, test him, remove it, put something else, tell the character to do something, tell the character to act like something, and then you take the shot, and it should be like your thumbnail, because it needs to tell a story, a cinematic one. And I think it's very, when you're learning, you kind of get influenced by some splash arts or some stuff that the background is all blurry and simple. But because it's the main thing on splash art, you need just sometimes you see images that sell only the character itself, only the skin. But I don't know, all the work we've been doing is more akin to storytelling. Like all these Runeterra cards are much more. They really want us to tell a story, much more than selling only the design of the character.
Yeah. Sometimes the stories are very sad too, but it is important to capture it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. You guys want to do a few questions before we wrap up the stream?
Yeah, let's do
Let's
it.
go.
Oh yeah. Oh wait, let's showcase some of the art from the challenge.
Ah, let's do that. Should I just drag over the document that you shared?
Oh yes.
Okay, let me do that. There was some absolutely amazing submissions, and it was super, super cool seeing all of them. And let me make sure that we do this.
Yeah. We picked some that were just on Discord. We'll be sharing the ones that you guys shared on Twitter and Instagram on those platforms as well.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So much dark magic in this world.
I think the stream, something's happening with the stream.
Oh. Hello?
It's not showing the slideshow.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe it's in the wrong monitor.
Can you... How about now?
I'm gonna have to wait a bit.
Oh, okay.
Refresh.
Sorry. Maybe because I full screened it.
Maybe, yeah.
Now you can see it.
Okay. Okay. Lots of super cool submissions. Super, super beautiful work.
Yeah, Isaiah. I know the guy.
Very cool.
Super.
Oh.
Go ahead, Abby.
Oh, nothing. Just whenever you're ready for Q&A, I've got a lot of questions loaded up.
Okay.
Cool.
Can we take just like 2-minute break?
Sure.
Okay. Do I need to do something on my side?
Yes. Click on the be right back.
Does that work? Or do I have to wait a little bit?
Yeah, let's
I'm
wait
not
for it
sure.
to refresh.
Let's see.
It worked.
It worked?
Okay.
Okay.
We will
Yeah.
be right back.
Be right back.
Just 2 minutes. Alright.
Hey, I'm back.
Alright. You hear Abby as well? Let's give it a minute or two.
Can the stream still hear us?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know how to
Okay.
how to mute.
That's okay.
I'm gonna try putting it back to main. I need something cheerful as backdrop. Maybe your art, Jan.
Let's go.
I'm gonna see if I can.
Yeah, they can hear us.
Okay. Don't forget to switch back to the main when we're back.
Did I do it?
Yes.
Okay. Do you wanna share questions you picked up?
Sure. So, first question from Yvette is it worth having your own portfolio website these days, or is it enough having it in ArtStation?
On other sites other than ArtStation?
Mm-hmm. Like building your own portfolio website, I think is the question.
I would say no. Like, my opinion, but like I think ArtStation is the place to be. You know, like you have, it's a very concentrated talent pool of like just uh, people who are looking to work in games. You have other websites like DeviantArt where you have a mix of. It's also different categories like you have photography, you have traditional sculpture and stuff. But like for if you want to work in games and films, I would say ArtStation is the place to go. A lot of recruiters also like ArtStation because it's very easy to find a lot of people to look at.
Yeah, usually
But
if you have your own website, that's usually harder for people to find.
Yeah. I'm like I'm not that active on social media, and I just post on ArtStation, and every time I post is when like emails come of opportunities, you know. And when I post on other media, it doesn't happen. So I think ArtStation is the thing.
Yeah. Also, I think it's good to emphasize that it's not necessarily the piece that gets likes on other social media that's going to be more visible, you know. Like Jan said, he doesn't post anything on social media, but he posts on ArtStation. And if you have good artwork, it's going to attract more people. That's just the rule of ArtStation, right?
I think also you get a lot of organic traffic with ArtStation. That if you have your own platform, like unless they're, in most cases it's hard to get organic traffic on those. That is relevant to you. So cool. Can take next, Abby.
I had a question for if we all work in Stockholm.
No.
No, sadly.
Yeah,
I
even the
wish.
four of us were Vancouver.
Yeah. Maybe one day. Who knows? Who knows? But
Yeah.
but no. And I think like a little bit to add to that, I think the future of working environment is more of like doesn't matter really where you live, right? We have hangouts. You can communicate just as fine as if the person was sitting here in the office. I don't think it is at all a requirement for at least in games industry, or at least if you work as a 2D artist, unless you work specifically on a game. I think that could be important to sit with a team, but in general, it's works totally fine working just wherever you want to be from.
Yeah.
A quick follow-up question to the last one is when you apply, is it generally just an ArtStation link, or do you need to have a PDF portfolio?
Say art. You guys want to go? Or should I?
I don't think I ever applied with something very concrete. Like, last time I did this, I put a lot of JPEGs on the email because I thought, oh, maybe he would be busy, so he just wants to see everything quickly. So I just put JPEGs here in my email and my contact info, and it worked at the time. So I guess that's what I would do.
Yeah. But I think the ArtStation link is the best because what I usually do when I want to remember someone is that I go to their ArtStation and I like one of their pieces. So it's always on my likes. I always can go back and because I'm not going to remember the names, I'm going to remember the pieces and I need to save them somewhere. So if you have a platform where we can easily click and like and save something, I think it's good.
Yeah, I know Atey does that a lot.
Yes. It's I love ArtStation, and I would add as well to that, like whenever you have your page, like I love when it's clean like this. I'm not a fan of when people put stuff into categories. I know some people like it, but for me, I just want to click on one thing and be able to browse through all the work that you did.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay. Next question. So from Narumi, what else should I focus on to become a character concept artist?
Interesting. Mm.
Yeah, I think the way to go is to do big projects with everything combining and in synergy. Yeah, you go, Pedro.
I think the main thing for character concept art, mainly for video games, is that you need to think of the project you're doing like it's something practical. And what I mean by that is that you work on a project as if it were for a game. You need to like imagine a fake game and do the project for that fake game, right? It needs to be usable. At the end of the day, what we do is mostly a product, right? And it has functions, and it needs to fulfill those functions. And for concept art, for games, for characters, right? You need to think of the game itself beforehand, right? So I think that's like the main thing to keep in mind.
Yeah. Also, oh, sorry. Go ahead, man.
No, you go. You go. I'll go after.
Okay. And also, I think sometimes we think doing beautiful characters is the way to go to be a concept artist. But as we said, sometimes there's very aesthetic and pleasing solutions that we do with, I don't know, girls with swords and stuff. But essentially, I think a concept artist is someone who can see reference, analyze what could fit in a definite world, try to adapt not only contextually, but the geometry of the character, try new solutions, new transitions between materials, try different materials as well. So it's much more of a problem solving and researching than just doing a beautiful character. And
Yeah.
And this is why we said try to vary what you do, because it will make you more versatile, which is super important.
Yeah, and to just add to that, I like to see concept art as more of like we are translators, basically. We pick some context that someone gave us, and we translate that to fit on something, So if I were to make characters for League of Legends, I would need to translate the character to that IP, and that's true to any IP. So every project you make is going to have a different problem solving that you need to do. So yeah, think of it as like translating stuff to fit the requirements.
And to add to a little bit more of that, like the character work, because I think like especially for character work, like there's a lot of people who want to do it, and like you want to design the main character of a game, and like something to keep in mind for those positions, that work rarely gets. You have to be on site to do that type of work. It's very rare that an external team get to work on key characters. So something to think about as well. If you specifically want to do character work, it also has to be a little bit of a larger studio, because usually if it's a larger studio, they tend to have people who specialize just in characters or just in an environment. So just a side thing on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Next one.
Next question from Danger Draft is: as a person who has done a number of commissions of headshots and busts, how can I put that into my portfolio? Or should I avoid putting commission pieces like that into my portfolio?
Depends.
If it's like good work, if it's something that shows that you're capable, I mean, anything goes,
Yeah. I think portfolio should be like an impression. I don't know if that's right or wrong. It's just what I think is when you see someone's work, you will scroll through all of them, but you see as a unique thing as well on the end. And what I would want to think of a person is, oh, this person can draw multiple kinds of subjects. This person can research. This person can draw backgrounds. This person can paint not only this kind of character, but all these. So if I see like a row of characters on a white background, and they are all very similar, which is common in commission. From what I know, that could be the wrong impression. Could be like, I don't see this person doing anything else than this. So that's something to keep in mind, I guess.
Yeah, whatever's in your portfolio, and it goes same for us as a studio, like we get the type of work we put out, right? So if we were just putting out like character against white backgrounds, most likely that's the only type of work we end up getting. And the same if you're an individual, if that's all you have on your portfolio, and if you don't want to do it, you can always reinvent yourself. Like I remember there was a period during my career where I was doing a lot of realistic stuff, and I kind of didn't like it, so I sort of had to stop posting that and rebuild towards the work I want to do. And that's okay. You just gotta sort of keep in mind, what do you want to paint? And only put that, because that is the type of work you're gonna end up doing.
Yeah. And also, I think if you only have those commissions to post, I think it's a good place to start. But like Atey said, you're gonna get that type of work. But if you don't have anything else, you can start with that and use it as a placeholder while you try something else. If you want to do something else, right? But if you don't have anything, it's a good place to start. Definitely.
Yeah. Cool. Next one.
Do we have any plans to open illustration internships anytime soon?
Well, yeah, Pedro, you guys want to take that, or should I give first?
I think you should.
Okay. So we currently have 4 illustration interns. We are trying something to help. We sort of found a group of really talented individuals who are not quite at the professional level, but we're trying to get them there with the illustration side of things. Pedro and Jan are the ones running that program. This year we're testing. It's like a 3 to 6 month cycle where we're trying it out, and it's a paid internship as well, because we want the team or the artist part of this to be able to pay the rent, pay the food, all that, but focus on the craft as well, which is really important. And it's hard if you have to, meet ends due on like buying food and stuff. So we're trying it out this year, and so far I think it's going great, and most likely we'll continue next year, but we will see. I don't know if you guys want to add anything to that.
I think that's it. I think it's a really nice initiative to have paid internship. I think that's something rare right now, and I think it's very positive. So I'm really happy to be part of it.
Yeah, when I was starting out, if someone comes to me with that opportunity in hands, I would like scream of joy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really mind blowing.
Next question is from Hand Artist. Thanks for doing the review, guys. Any advice on what to include in an art resume if you didn't attend art school and have no professional experience yet?
There is no shame in not having experience, Like if you have no experience, you don't have any experience. Like the work is what matters. And like whenever I interview people, like we've interviewed people who have no experience, but it doesn't matter, It's just that in my mind it's like, okay, this person hasn't worked on games before. The things that maybe I take for granted, I gotta make sure to explain it and walk through the process of how we work. And so it doesn't matter if you don't have any experience, as long as the work is there.
Yeah, I think it's true for me and Jan that when we started, we didn't have art school or anything. We just started trying to improve by ourselves, and it works. We don't need necessarily to have art school. Of course, art school could be extremely beneficial for you, but if you can't study on that, it's totally fine to do it by yourself. Like Atey said, the work speaks for itself. If you have good work, you will find you will be hired.
We will find you. We will find you.
We will find you.
Yeah. Be patient and try things out. And try to search for pathways to take and go into them as long as you can, and things are going to start happening.
Yeah. And I think it's like super positive that we don't need to have, you know, um, we don't need to participate in official schools to work. You know, it's not like a surgeon that needs to have like something that proves that he can do surgery. So we need to be happy that this is the case for art and we have this freedom. You know.
Yeah.
Cool. Maybe we can do 2 more questions, Abby.
Oh, okay. Brian's asking, what led you to create Envar and how have you liked it? And also, what does it mean? What does the name Envar mean?
Oh, that's a curious one.
It's I think, it was basically like I was in LA during the pandemic, and I wanted to move back to Sweden. And at the time, I couldn't continue working for Riot due to some legal things where you cannot work full time on remote with companies in California, some California laws. But I needed to come back home to Sweden to be. My parents are really old, and the pandemic. We all know it for different people's different difficulties dealing with it. So I wanted to come back, and then I wanted to keep working, so I decided to open up Envar with some goals and ambitions that we've tried to put as a studio and as a team to achieve. And what was the second part of the question? What it means?
Uh-huh.
So it's a very old Swedish word for each and everyone.
Oh.
Yep.
It's
Cool.
beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So I guess to your last question. Whenever you're designing a character or artist, this is from Spearman, do you ever find yourself looking at your art and thinking, oh, I've seen something like this before? And what do you do in that situation?
Oh, that happens a lot. I think mainly for character design and design in general, it's about trying to find clever solutions. I think that's the key word, cleverness. Because we can always have the easiest solution for the design, like, oh, I'm gonna have to make a warrior. He's gonna be huge with a small head, big arm, shoulder pads, a big shield, and a big freaking sword. That's everybody has seen and done that. So what's a clever solution for a character like that? So usually what I like to do, and this is a very specific and practical way of thinking, but when I design a character, I think, okay, my first solution for this character would be this, and my second solution would be that. And usually solution number 5 and 6 start to get interesting, So
Yeah.
usually it's a lot of brain power that you need to put into it. But it's just a matter of exploring stuff. And sometimes it's okay to have like a generic design. Sometimes it fulfills a purpose, but usually if you have a more interesting and clever design that has innovations on it, usually that stands out from everything else and usually is the best option.
Yeah. Also, when I have this kind of thought, which is, sometimes it happens, there's something I keep in mind to make me more chill about it, which is we are always designing something that already exists in a macro spectrum. Like the archetypes are all kind of similar in all games, like Overwatch or Valorant. But when you're gonna design something, there's a lot of dimensions you can be also how can I say, you can express yourself if you think about, like, you're creating everything, even the culture. You're gonna research and treat every aspect of the design in a specific way, like the geometry of the elements. You can draw them in a different complex way than what already exists, or what my art director tells me always, like Claudio says a lot about padding. You put something in front of something and you create complexity that doesn't exist before, because I mean, nail the macro and express yourself in the micro. That's something like that in my head that works. And since when we look at something, we are kind of thirsty for details. First, we read the overall, then we're gonna see the details, and in there is gonna be your own decisions, specific decisions. You know, I don't know
Yeah.
if it's clear, but
Yeah, and I think it's good to say that even though we want to have something that stirs away from what's normal, you know, something different, we want something new, it still needs to be readable. You know, design, I think it's about empathy. It's about being something relatable. You know, people need to understand what's happening. So even though we need to do something new, we always need to
Yeah.
keep something that's common to everybody, you know?
gotta be based in something that exists.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point, and I remember on the development of a project um, before Envar, we had characters that were super unique, stuff that I hadn't seen before. But what ended up happening was it was very alienating to the player base, you know. And that's the
Yeah.
thing, like you can go completely unique, but you gotta think of like, especially within games, I can't speak about films, but like in games, like you have to create something that the players understand. You know, obviously there's edge cases. When I'm talking about main scenarios, it's like you want a player to play when playing the game, they should look at a character and kind of understand what is the fantasy trying to communicate very clearly in general.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, we're up on time. We got 2 minutes left. Wanna take? I don't know if.
One more.
Huh? One more? Okay, let's do one last. Do you have one last, Abby?
How do you guys avoid?
Oh, you cut out.
Oh, how do you avoid burnouts from drawing too many elements?
Too many elements.
I think this is in relation. There's another question that's similar on giving love to the entire piece of art.
So maybe like if we try to phrase it like, how do you avoid burnout and completing the image you're working on, and not
Yeah.
and not
Mm.
like giving up maybe at a certain point.
That's difficult.
Yeah. I mean, there's this kind of personality of an artist that likes to keep solving problems on a single thing for how long it should take. And I think me and Pedro are kind of in that spectrum. Like we tend to like to keep solving things, keep solving, even if
Yeah.
it's one image. And I think that's what helps us, like on not fully. Like I don't want to be thinking about the final product all the time. You know, oh man, I need to finish this. It should be already finished. I'm still messing up with things that I don't want to put my hand anymore. But that's not what interests us. I think we like to the middle, like the core thing of the process is what keeps us going. I think, and that helps working at Enver, for instance, because well, we do images that take weeks and sometimes months. You know, 1 month. I don't think there's more than that, but and yeah, and every day we get a fresh view from someone or not or our directors, or we talk to a coworker about it. Yeah, we have to find ways to keep it fresh as well. You know.
Yeah. I think a good culture that we have here at Enver is that it's okay to change projects if we want, you know, if we're having problems with something we're on the same piece for a long time. It's and usually when we have that so much time on the same piece, we start to get slow and we don't know what else to do, you know. Like Ian said, we need a fresh view, and it's good to change projects on that scenario. But yeah, I think generally what avoids burnout is resting, you know, resting your mind
Yeah.
of the piece, you know. So if you're feeling like, okay, this is not going anywhere, like if you keep trying, it's probably gonna make it worse, you know. So change, go work on something else for a bit, and then you go back, you know. Always have that separation of time for your mind to just cool down, and so you can have a fresh look once you're back to the piece, right?
Yeah.
I think as well when you work on a piece, it's like you can work, but you can relax your brain because there's gonna be heavy creative phases when you're trying to nail an aspect of the image, but like the rendering part, that's more like following a pattern of how to sculpt the form, and that's when your brain can sort of like relax a little bit. So it's trying to, at least for me, whenever I'm working on something, I try to like deal with something difficult, go to something easy. Deal with something difficult, go to something easy to try and like make sure that you keep a healthy balance to be able to go through. Because sometimes you gotta work, longer hours. So it's good to make sure that you don't overwork yourself and try to pace yourself. And it comes with time and you getting to know yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something I don't know if it's sad or not, but I always I don't expect anything to be easy. Like only a few times I expected, and I was kind of frustrated because really nothing is easy.
Yeah.
You need to think it through and try to pay attention to it. So yeah, it's an activity that demands your brain. You just go and analyze it. Be chill about it. Don't don't panic. Just be okay with it. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think to sum it up, it's just keep trying to vary your problem solving. Don't stay too much time on the same thing. Rest, and your brain is going to be happy.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you everyone for tuning in on this. Hopefully there was something interesting and fun to take away from this, whether your portfolio got reviewed or not, but at least something from the stuff we discussed. Thank you to Abby for helping organize things, Yan and Pedro for joining. It was super fun. We're definitely going to do this again, maybe be with Yan and Pedro, maybe some other people at the studio, but we want to, try this, do it more often. There's some other stuff planned as well. So keep an eye on the Discord. Enjoy your Friday evening and weekend. And thanks, everybody.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Had a good time.
Thank
Thank you,
Thanks for
guys.
watching.
Bye bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Do I just click end stream?
Click on the ending soon,
Okay. Okay.
and then leave it. You can leave it for.
Okay. Should I mute?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Hold on. Let's see.